Right in the thick of World War II, there was this other secret war being fought far away from any battlefield. It was a battle of pure brainpower, of mathematicians and their machines trying to crack a code the German High Command thought was absolutely 100% unbreakable. This is the story of how cracking that code didn't just turn the tide of a battle, it really changed the entire course of the war in the Atlantic. So for the German U-boat commanders, the first couple years of the war, well, they called it the happy time. And you can see why. They were roaming the North Atlantic almost like they owned it, coordinating their attacks on Allied ships with terrifying precision, and they turned that ocean into a graveyard. The secret to all this success? A constant stream of coded radio messages. And the results? They were just devastating. In early 1941, German U-boats were sinking, on average, 282,000 tons of Allied shipping every single month. Now, if you're an island nation like Britain, totally dependent on the supplies, this isn't just a military headache. It's an existential threat. This is about survival. So that was the massive problem, right? How do you possibly fight back? The Allies knew the U-boats were talking to each other. They could even pick up the signals, but the messages were just complete nonsense, total gibberish. The battle plans for every single attack were locked inside this thing called the Enigma code, and cracking it, well, pretty much everyone said it was impossible. Think about it like this. Britain was literally being strangled. Its lifeline was this constant flow of ships coming across the Atlantic, carrying food, fuel, everything they needed to keep fighting. And the German U-boats, hunting in these deadly groups they called Wolfpacks, were cutting that lifeline, one convoy at a time. And the whole thing was being coordinated by Enigma. The situation was beyond dire. To really get a sense of how bad it was, just look at convoy SC7 back in October 1940. Out of 35 ships that left Canada, 20 of them were sunk. That's just a catastrophic failure rate. The math here was simple and it was brutal. If they couldn't break that code, Britain was going to fall. But the answer, if one even existed, wasn't going to be found on the high seas. It was going to be found in a quiet English estate called Bletchley Park. And even more specifically, inside a little wooden building known as Hut 8, where a small team led by the brilliant and, let's face it, pretty eccentric Alan Turing was given this impossible task. So why was this so incredibly hard? Well, the thing is, not all Enigma machines were created equal. The Allies had actually had a little bit of luck against the Army and Air Force versions, mostly because of sloppy operator mistakes. But the naval Enigma? That was a whole different beast. It had more rotors to choose from, which didn't just make it a little more complex. It caused the number of possible combinations to just explode, from 60 to 336. The German sailors had much stricter radio discipline, and as Turing suspected, there was a whole extra layer of encryption just for good measure. And look, the feeling at the time was, this is a lost cause. Even the man in charge, Alistair Denniston, thought it couldn't be done. So it was against this backdrop of official doubt of his own boss saying it's impossible that Alan Turing and his small team in Hut 8 insisted that no, mathematically, logically, it could be done. They just had to find a way in. So the hunt began, and it was the slow, agonizingly difficult grind, just searching for tiny, tiny cracks in Enigma's armor. This was not a story about a single eureka moment. No, this was a painstaking process of collecting clues, testing out theories, and desperately hunting for actual physical codebooks. One of their most important tools was using cribs, which is just another name for probable words. It's basically a really, really educated guess. So if you know a message is a weather report, you can guess it probably contains the word weather. But here's where they got really clever. The Royal Air Force would go out and deliberately lay sea mines in specific areas, knowing the Germans would have to radio in a report about them. This basically manufactured predictable messages with known coordinates that the team could then use as cribs. Just brilliant. And then they got a break. In April of 41, a German trawler was captured. And its codebooks, get this, they were printed on special paper that was designed to dissolve in water so it could be destroyed instantly. But the crew couldn't get it overboard in time. This was a huge deal. The tables they captured proved Turing's theory about that extra encryption was right all along, and it gave Bletchley Park 6 precious days of real insight into the naval code. That little victory, it was just the beginning. What happened next, in the spring and early summer of 1941, was just this cascade of captures. It was a series of what looked like lucky breaks, but they were actually the result of a very deliberate and intense hunt for intelligence. And it all happened so fast. In March, they capture the trawler Krebs and get rotor settings. Then, in May, they grab the weather ship Munchin. And then, the jackpot. The damaged U-boat U-110 is boarded, and the Allies get their hands on a complete, intact Enigma machine with all of its current codebooks. A month after that, another weather ship. Just like that, Hut 8 had every single piece of the puzzle they needed. So, with all this incredible captured material, the main naval key, which they codenamed Dolphin, was finally definitively broken. And by September of 1941, the codebreakers at Bletchley Park were reading the German Navy's most secret messages, often on the very same day they were sent. But here's the thing, breaking the code once wasn't nearly enough. They had to do it every single day, because the Germans changed the settings constantly. The human mind, even Turing's, was just too slow. The solution was this incredible electromechanical marvel, an engine of computation designed by Alan Turing to automate the search. It was called the bomb. So how on earth did this thing work? Well, it was ingenious. Instead of trying to find the one right answer out of millions, it was engineered to find all the wrong ones. The machine's drums would just spin like crazy, testing thousands of settings, and every time it found a combination that was logically impossible based on the crib, it just threw it out. When it finally landed on a setting that could work, one that didn't create any contradictions, it would stop, giving the codebreakers a possible key to go and test. And this was truly a team effort. Turing might have designed the machine, but a critical upgrade from his colleague Gordon Welchman, called the diagonal panel, is what made it truly effective by massively cutting down on the number of false stops. And we absolutely can't forget the operators, the members of the Women's Royal Naval Service, the Wrens, who were running these massive, noisy machines 24/7. It was a grueling, repetitive job, but it was absolutely vital. All right, so the code was broken, the machines were running, and the intelligence, codenamed Ultra, started to flow. And its effect on the Battle of the Atlantic, and really the whole war, was immediate, it was direct, and it was dramatic. The impact was just wow. Remember that horrifying number, 282,000 tons of shipping being sunk every month? By July, with Ultra intelligence allowing the Allies to steer convoys away from the Wolfpacks, that number was cut by more than half. By November, it had dropped by nearly 80%. The Atlantic lifeline was secure. And its impact went way beyond just the convoys. You had these brilliant deductions, like from an analyst named Mavis Lever, who figured out a whole Italian naval plan because an operator got bored and sent a test message that was just the letter L over and over again. That led to a massive naval victory at Cape Matapon. Ultra decrypts were also key in hunting down and sinking the pride of the German fleet, the battleship Bismarck. This was literally like having a window into the enemy's mind. Breaking Enigma didn't end the war overnight, not by a long shot, but it was this monumental strategic victory, one that had to be kept secret for decades. It's just a powerful reminder that history isn't only shaped on the battlefield, but sometimes in quiet rooms, through secret calculations. And it makes you wonder, right? It leaves us with this profound question. How many other pivotal moments in history were decided not by armies, but by an algorithm?